properties of concrete, etc., abrasion, etc., that we will try to understand. The fatigue strength of the concrete is nothing. Fatigue is a process. It is the process of progressive permanent internal changes in the material that occur under the action of cyclic loadings. So fatigue or the fatigue strength is again a property of the concrete or that strength of the concrete wherein the concrete should resist to the failure due to the internal changes in the concrete structure due to the application of constant load on that concrete structure. That load which is applied on the concrete may not be the load at failure. Okay, that may be less than the load at failure or the ultimate load. You must have learnt in your strength of materials. Ultimate load or the maximum load. That is the load. That is the maximum load a structure or a structural member can withstand before failure. So the fatigue is the process wherein there are certain internal changes into the concrete material due to the application of the constant load or the cyclic load. That is the cyclic load means the load which is applied after certain cycles. That is the load application by the hammer, you can say. हथौड़े से जैसे हम एक बार दो बार तीन बार ठोकते रहते हैं उसको साइक्लिक लोड बोलेंगे, या एखादे बार एखादी बिल्डिंग बना के है और उसके ऊपर में कुछ तो भी एखादा वेट रख दिया, जो वेट वो कंक्रीट का जो मैक्सिमम अल्टीमेट जो स्ट्रेंथ है उसकी उससे कम है, अल्टीमेट लोड कैरिंग कैपेसिटी से that weight may become, that mass may be less, but due to the constant presence of that mass over the structure, there are certain internal changes that will take place in the material of that structure, that is in our case concrete, and the structure gets internal cracks inside, and due to this constant application of the load or the cyclic application, the cracks are formed, and ultimate with the progressive or with the as the time progresses, the load is there, either constant load or the cyclic load, and these cracks goes on increasing, and at some time or other that structure fails. That structure collapses. This strength of the concrete to withstand the progressive permanent internal changes in the material due to the constant or the cyclic loading is called as the fatigue strength. Due to this fatigue loading or fatigue process results in progressive growths of the crack in the concrete, which are already present in the concrete system. I have the confidence that you must be knowing where are those cracks, inborn cracks or inherent cracks. They are into the transition zone. But due to the constant application of the load, which is less than the ultimate load or the load at failure, or maybe due to cyclic application, cyclic loading, these cracks goes on increasing, and at certain time when these cracks are reaches to such a level that ultimately the structure fails or the structure falls, This is called as the fatigue failure. And to resist this failure, the strength of the concrete must have is called as the fatigue strength. Okay. So this fatigue failure or the fatigue process may occur due to two loads. First is the cyclic loading, maybe high level of cyclic load applied for the short time. Okay, more load, more weight, I applied cyclically like the hammering process, or maybe a low level of load or low value of the load applied for longer time. Okay, I think to some extent you must have understood the meaning of the fatigue strength or the fatigue process. Its example is highway pavement, like the concrete which is provided at the highways or roads, wherein the vehicular load or the vehicular traffic or the traffic of the trucks, the motorcycles, the cars, the rollers are not constant. It is a cyclic. One vehicle comes and goes, another vehicle comes and goes. So on a particular patch of the highway, the application of the load is the cyclic load. Or the highway bridges, the bridges wherein the traffic goes and comes, the vehicular load comes and the leaves or the goes due to the constant traffic. So this is the example of the cyclic loading. Or the railway bridges, the airport pavements, that is the airport runways, and the bridges, certain bridges on the marine structure, like the structures in the sea, wherein there is constant application of the cyclic loading. The another example of the low load level of the load applied for a longer times is the water tank on our residential houses, which is maybe 300 liters, 400 liters, 500 liters capacity water tank, which we provide for our day-to-day use at the terrace of our house, of our home. This water tank has got the capacity, you can say 300 liters, means 300 kilograms of the water load comes over our building for the whole life of the building, for 40 years, 50 years, constant, which may be less than the compressive strength of the concrete, because the compressive strength is quite big. As compared to the compressive strength, this load of 300 kilograms, but this low level load is applied for a longer time, maybe 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. So this constant application of such types of the loads as well as the cyclic load results in the process called as the fatigue process, wherein there are progressive permanent internal changes. Progressive permanent internal changes are continuous internal changes are taking place in the structure of the concrete, that is the concrete materials. Which changes takes place? They result in the increase in growth of cracks which are already present in the concrete, and ultimately results for the failure of the structure. This is called as the fatigue process. And to withstand this load or to withstand this failure, the strength concrete must have is called as the fatigue strength. So fatigue occurs when subjected to rapidly fluctuating and cyclic loads or the stresses, and the failure of material occurs due to fatigue at stress levels much lower than the yield strength of the material or the ultimate strength of the material or the maximum strength of the material at before failure for a static load. Static means constant load. Okay. So this is very important. Either rapidly fluctuating cyclic stresses or loads, or low load less than the yield strength of the material for a longer period. two types of the fatigue failure, as we have discussed just now. Two types of the fatigue failures are there. One is the sustained load, or as just we have discussed, a slowly increasing load, or a constant load near but below the strength under the increasing load. How much this load, sustained load or the slow increasing load or a small load quantity, it is near or less than, below the maximum or the ultimate strength under an increasing load. This is known as static fatigue or creep rupture. So the fatigue's first example is static fatigue or the creep rupture. The meaning is low value of the load less than the ultimate strength or the maximum strength of the concrete, but for a longer time, but for a longer duration. So this is the static fatigue. The second type of the failure occurs, fatigue failure occurs under cyclic. I have given the example of the hammer, or on the road, or on the bridges, maybe a rail bridge, maybe a road bridge, because cyclically, after certain cycle, after certain period, the load comes and goes. Maybe a 10 ton truck, or maybe a 15 or 20 tons of the roller, or more than 20 tons of the roller is those vehicles used in the military. Okay, crawler based vehicles. So these are called as the cyclic loading. These are the repeatedly occurring loading, repeated loading. The failure due to this type of the loading is called as the simply as fatigue. So two types of the fatigue: static fatigue, creep rupture, or the fatigue, which is only one name, fatigue is given. What happens under repeated loads? Concrete suffers damages resulting from progressive growth of internal microcracks and fails at a load less than its static strength. The fatigue strength of the concrete is therefore a fraction of static strength. It is less than the static or the ultimate strength. It is a fraction of the static strength or less than that fatigue strength that the concrete can support repeatedly for a given number of load cycles. Okay. At fatigue failure, concrete exhibit increased strengths and reduced modulus due to the progressive internal damages from the microcracking. What happens at fatigue failure? There are observed increase in the strengths. That is, the length may decrease, the volume may decrease, or volume may increase. Strain, you know the meaning of the definition of the strain. That is the change in length or change in volume upon original volume. So this volumetric changes or the length changes may occur under fatigue failure or may be seen, but the reduced, excuse me, so the fatigue strength of the concrete is there for a fraction of the static strength. This we have seen. And at fatigue failure, there is observed that increase in the strengths, STRAIN strengths, and reduced modulus of elasticity. Modulus of elasticity is the ratio of stress upon strain. Okay. So the modulus of elasticity of the concrete decreases, but the strain increases because it is the ratio of stress upon strain. So if the denominator increases, then definitely the modulus will decrease. Okay. We will be seeing in the latter part of the lecture the modulus or elastic property of the concrete. So the definition of the fatigue strength is, it is defined as the maximum flexural fatigue stress at which the concrete can withstand a prescribed number of fatigue load cycles before failure. Okay, I think you must have understood the meaning of the fatigue strength, the fatigue resistance, or the fatigue load, and the fatigue failure. Its theoretical definition is fatigue strength is defined or described as the maximum flexural fatigue stress, that is the bending fatigue stress, at which the concrete can withstand a prescribed number of fatigue load cycles before failure. With the increase in the duration of the application of the load, that is the fatigue load, the concrete becomes more brittle and its ultimate strain capacity does not increase proportionately with the increase in the static strength. In now what is observed in high strength concrete, we have seen that the concrete having strength more than 40 or 50 newton per mm square or 60 newton per mm square, those concretes are called as the high strength concrete. The elastic modulus of the paste, that is the cement and the water paste, and that of the aggregate are more similar at high strength concrete. Both, that is the paste and the aggregate, they have the modulus of elasticity almost same, therefore reduces the stress concentration on the aggregate as well as the aggregate and the paste interface, that is at the transition zone, which would make high strength concrete less susceptible to fatigue loading. The meaning is that the fatigue strength of the high strength concrete is more, means concrete having strength more than 50 or 60 newton per mm square has higher fatigue strength. Means we can deduce or we can decide from this that for the important structures wherein there are chances of the fatigue loads, that is the cyclic loading or maybe a static loading, and if you want to avoid the fatigue failure, then the high strength concrete should be used, because due to the reduction in the micro cracking at the transition zone, I have explained you again and again the meaning of the transition zone, and the cracks, the inborn or inherent cracks at micro cracks in the transition zone are less in the high strength concrete or high performance concrete. Also HPC means high performance concrete or the high strength concrete. As these cracks are less, therefore the increase or the expansion of these cracks due to the constant fatigue load also decreases, therefore increasing the fatigue strength of the concrete. So due to the reduced micro cracking in high performance or high strength concrete, the fatigue life built up damages are smaller when compared with those in normal strength concrete. The longitudinal strength development in high strength concrete is similar to the normal strength concrete. Now we will be moving on to the next strength parameter, that is the bond strength. Because for the concrete to have a good either compressive strength or the tensile strength or the other impact and this fatigue strength, etc., there must be a very good bond between the aggregate to aggregate by the cement and the water paste, as well as the bond between the reinforcement that is provided in the concrete with the concrete. That bond is also very important, because due to that bond between the reinforcement and the concrete, the tensile stresses are transferred from concrete to reinforcement, because reinforcement or the steel in the concrete is more tensile as compared to the concrete. So therefore the bond strength is considered important from 2 points or 2 aspects, that is the bond strength between the cement and the water paste or the concrete, because it is used in concrete, and the steel reinforcement. So bond between, very good bond between, or the bond strength between the paste and the steel reinforcement, and between the paste and the aggregate. Because if the aggregates are bonded properly, very rigidly by the cement paste, then the strength of the concrete will definitely increase. Maybe a compressive strength, maybe a tensile strength, maybe a flexural strength, or maybe other impact strength and other strengths, etc. Fatigue strength. So bond strength between paste and steel reinforcement is of considerable importance, because there must be a perfect bond between steel and reinforcement for the fundamental assumption. Which was the fundamental assumption? That the tensile load that comes over the concrete is transferred to the steel. So, and the perfect bond is fundamental assumption of the RCC, reinforced concrete, RC. The bond strength arises primarily from the friction and adhesion between concrete and steel. बॉन्ड स्ट्रेंथ कैसी आती है कंक्रीट को, या कंक्रीट और उसमें जो लोहा रहता है उसमें, वो आती है उन दोनों में फ्रिक्शन के कारण, ड्यू टू द फ्रिक्शन बिटवीन द कंक्रीट एंड द रीइंफोर्समेंट. उसके लिए हम क्या करते हैं, वी प्रोवाइड द रफ सरफेस ओवर द रीइंफोर्समेंट. उसको टॉर स्टील करके बोलते हैं, टॉर स्टील है ना. लोहा यदि आपने देखा कंक्रीट में जो यूज करते हैं, वो लोहा का सरफेस रफ रहता है, या उसको टॉर दिया जाता है, उसको रफनेस दिया जाता है, उसको टॉर स्टील करके बोलते हैं. ओनली टू गिव ए गुड बॉन्ड बिटवीन द कंक्रीट एंड द स्टील, एज वेल एज adhesion between concrete and steel, that is the force of attraction between the concrete and steel. So bond strength between the steel and the concrete depends on two things, that is the friction between the concrete and the steel, as well as the force of attraction between concrete and the steel. As I have told you just now, the roughness of the steel surface is also one of the factors affecting the bond strength, and this roughness arises of the steel surface due to the TOR, torque given over the steel surface. That therefore that steel now is called as torque steel. The bond strength is also function of the compressive strength up to 20 MPa, megapascal, or 20 Newton per mm square. So on the compressive strength also the bond strength depends. Higher the compressive strength, more is the bond strength. Okay, for higher strength, increase in bond strength becomes progressively smaller. Means that doesn't mean that the bond strength is small. For higher strength, the bond strength will be more, but with the, as the strength increases, M60, M70, M80, the increase in the bond strength is not that much larger as compared to the lower strength concrete, or as compared to increase in strength compared with lower strength concrete. It is also function of the specific surface of gel, means fineness of cement. So it also depends on the fineness of the cement. Cement which consists of higher percentage of C2S, dicalcium silicate, baelite, will give higher specific surface of gel, thereby giving higher bond strength. On the other hand, concrete containing more C3S or the concrete cured at higher temperature results in smaller specific surface of gel, which may give the lower bond strength. The aggregate cement bond strength is also, concrete is a chain in which aggregates are links bonded together by the cement paste. The strength of the concrete as a whole depends upon strength, that is the bond strength of the hydrated hardened paste. Therefore, it depends on the water cement ratio. So friends, you all know the importance of the water cement ratio. Lower the water cement ratio, more will be the bond strength. Therefore, this bond between the cement paste and the aggregate depends on, or bond between aggregate to aggregate depends on, also depends on the water cement ratio. And the water cement ratio determines the quality, that is the density, porosity of the product of hydration, that is the concrete, in the CSH gel, that is the cement and the water paste gel. Stronger the gel bond, stronger is the concrete. And when the gel bond will be stronger, when the water cement ratio will be less. So in ultimate analysis, it is integrity of the transition zone that influences the strength of concrete, because the transition zone contains the micro hair cracks, okay, inborn. So high pressure steam cured concrete produces a gel whose specific surface is about 120 of the specific surface of the gel produced by normal concrete. Therefore, sometimes, to some extent, the high pressure steam cured concrete may give lower bond strength. Now, friends, will be moving on after discussing the what is the meaning of bond strength, which are the various factors affecting the bond strength. We will move on to the elastic property of the concrete. You know what is the meaning of pure elastic material or pure elasticity, as has been shown in this first graph, wherein the stress is always proportional to the strain, or the ratio of the stress to strain, which is called as the modulus of elasticity, is always constant. Means as the stress increases, the strain also increases. After removal of the stress or the load, the material gets its original shape, that is called as the perfectly elastic material. So pure elasticity is that the strains appear and disappear. Means wherein the pure elastic material is that where the strains appear and disappear immediately, either on application of the load or the stress and removal of the stress. That is the first graph. What we want to find out, whether the concrete is a perfectly elastic material, whether it is a non-linear or non-elastic, or non-linear and elastic, or linear and non-elastic, or non-linear and non-elastic. What is these four things? First we try to understand, and then we will see where the concrete fits. So this about the elastic properties of the material, it is categorized into the four types. The first is the perfect elastic material, that is the steel, where the stress to strain curve, stress between strain and the stress curve, is a straight line, is a linear, and is a perfect elastic. If the stress or the load is removed, the material gains its original shape. Perfectly elastic material. This is the first. Second is non-linear and elastic. The examples are plastics and the timber. अब इसमें क्या है, ये जैसा लीनियर ग्राफ है या परफेक्ट रेशियो है वैसा नहीं है. The stress upon strain ratio is not constant. Here it is constant, straight line. Here it is curved. Means the initially the ratio is constant, but as the stress is increased, as the load is increased, this moves downwards, or the curved ones. Means with the increase in the strength, more increase in the strength. With the lesser increase of the stress, more increase in the strength. But this is a perfectly elastic material, wherein after removal of the stress, the material gains its original shape. Therefore, it is non-linear, though the ratio is not constant, but it is a perfectly elastic material. This is the second type, whose examples are plastics and the timber. The third type of the materials are the linear. The ratio of the stress to strain is constant, or therefore the graph is linear, but the material is non-elastic. Means after the stress is removed, the material does not gain its original shape. Means whatever strain has occurred, the effect of that strain is appeared on the material. What effect, what the example of this is, that is the brittle material such as the glass and the rocks. What happens? सेपरेट लीनियर कर्व एग्जिस्ट, जैसे ये पहला ये कर्व है जब लोड अप्लाई कर रहे हैं तब, और लोड निकालने के बाद में ये दूसरा कर्व बताता है। ये दोनों कर्व का मतलब ये है कि जब लोड अप्लाई करते हैं तब स्ट्रेस टू स्ट्रेन रेशियो तो कांस्टेंट रहता है, लेकिन लोड निकालने के बाद में कुछ स्ट्रेन उसके ऊपर रहता है, यानी समझो उसकी लेंथ बड़ी है, इफ द लेंथ इज इंक्रीज्ड then it does not, after removal of the load, it does not retain its original length, but some increase in length appears after removal of the load. So the strain appears, but the ratio of the stress to strain is constant straight line. Such materials are called as the linear and the non-elastic material, wherein there is a constant ratio, linear curve exists for the loading and unloading branches of the stress strain diagram, but a permanent deformation exists after complete removal of the load. इसका एग्जाम्पल है ये कहाँ ऐसे मटेरियल मिलते हैं, कौन से मटेरियल में ये प्रॉपर्टी मिलती है? वो ग्लास में मिलती है, या सम कुछ रॉक्स जो है बसाल्ट वगैरह, सैंडस्टोन वगैरह, तो उसमें इस टाइप की प्रॉपर्टी मिलती है कि आफ्टर एप्लीकेशन ऑफ द लोड the strain is observed, the ratio of the stress to strain is straight line constant, but after removal of the load, the strain appears over that structural body. Now the last, that is non-linear and non-elastic. The fourth category, wherein with the application of the load, it is non-linear, means the ratio of the stress to strain is not constant. It is the curved one, जैसे ये यहाँ पे है. As well as after removal of the load also, the stress to strain ratio is not constant and it is non-elastic, means whatever strain that has taken place that appear over that material. Okay, so the fourth category case, wherein non-linear and non-elastic behavior, a permanent deformation exists after removal of the load. The area enclosed by the loading and unloading curve, यानी ये जो एरिया है इसके बीच में का लोडिंग कर्व एंड दिस इज द अनलोडिंग कर्व, रिप्रेजेंट द हिस्टेरिसिस टिपिकल ऑफ द कंक्रीट. ये कंक्रीट के लिए है भाई, दिस द आवर मटेरियल कंक्रीट कम्स इन दिस कैटेगरी. कंक्रीट में ऐसा दिखता है कि इट इज नॉट ए परफेक्टली लीनियर material wherein stress to strain ratio is not constant, it is varying, as well as it is non-elastic and it does not gain to its original shape, but there is the appearance of the strain over the body. So it is typical of the concrete in compression as well as tension, loaded to moderate or high stresses, but is not very pronounced as low stresses. यानी जो कम यदि लोड है तो उसमें ये ज्यादा नहीं दिखाई देता, लेकिन बहुत ज्यादा जब लोड्स रहता है तो उसमें दिखाई देता है. ठीक है, मुझे लगता है कि कंक्रीट कौन से कैटेगरी में आता है ये आपके ध्यान में आ गया. फोर्थ कैटेगरी, नॉन इलास्टिक एंड as well as the stress to strain ratio is also not uniform or the straight line. Now we will come into the next part, that is the detailed elastic properties of the concrete. It is not perfectly elastic material, it deforms. ये यहाँ पे जैसे ग्राफ दिख रहा है स्ट्रेन और स्ट्रेस में कंक्रीट का, it deforms when the load is applied, but this deformation does not follow any sample set rule. ये कोई ऐसा ये जो डिफॉर्मेशन होता है या स्ट्रेस टू स्ट्रेन का जो रेशियो है ये कोई कांस्टेंट नहीं है, ये कोई रूल फॉलो नहीं करता, ये वेरी होते जाता है and can be described as non-linear and non-elastic behavior, and always a permanent deformation exists after removal of the load. कंक्रीट में क्या होता है, यदि कॉम्प्रेसिव लोड है और यदि वो कॉम्प्रेस हो जाता है तो लोड हटाने के बाद में फिर से वो ओरिजिनल शेप में नहीं आता, कुछ ना कुछ मिलीमीटर्स उसका लेंथ यदि है, लेंथ पैरामीटर हम कंसीडर करते हैं तो लेंथ कम हो जाती है. यदि कहीं इलोंगेशन है, टेंशन, तो उसकी लेंथ बड़ी है तो वो दैट इंक्रीज इन द लेंथ कैन बी ऑब्जर्व. ओके, So this permanent deformation exists after removal of the load. This is the speciality of the concrete. Just I like to show you a graph of the various elastic properties of the various ingredients of the concrete. This is the elastic property of the concrete. Elastic property means the relation between the application of the stress and the strain. Okay, stress is nothing but the force per unit area. Force applied per unit area may be a compressive force, may be a tensile force, and strain is nothing but the length change in dimension upon original dimension. Maybe a length, maybe a volume, maybe a width, or maybe a depth. Change in length upon original length, change in volume upon original volume. That is called as the strain. And for the perfectly elastic material, it is a straight line type the graph, wherein the ratio of the stress to strain is always constant. It is called as, for the length, it is called as the modulus of elasticity. But for concrete, it is not a constant, it is a curved one. It is neither linear nor it is elastic material. But for the cement paste, this graph or the relation is the straight line. For concrete, it is curved, and for aggregate also it is straight line. So you can see for aggregate is a good elastic material. The cement paste to certain load is also a elastic material, but concrete, combination of both these, is not a elastic material. The deformation in the concrete due to application of the load depends upon the magnitude of the load. यानी कितना बड़ा लोड है, कितने क्वांटिटी का लोड है, कितने टन का लोड है. जैसे लोड बढ़ते जाएगा या घटते जाएगा, उसके ऊपर डिफॉर्मेशन या चेंज इन लेंथ और चेंज इन वॉल्यूम डिपेंड होगा. डिपेंड्स अपॉन द रेट एट विच द लोड इज अप्लाइड. यानी फास्ट एप्लीकेशन ऑफ द लोड और स्लो एप्लीकेशन ऑफ द लोड, उसके ऊपर भी डिफॉर्मेशन डिपेंड रहेगा. And the elapsed time after which the observation is made, means after application of the load, how much time has taken place, means the deformation on the first day after application of the load may be less as compared to deformation or the change in the strain took taken place after 7 days, after 28 days. That is the elapsed time after which the observation is made. Now, how the modulus of elasticity of concrete is found out. The cubes are casted, either the cubes of 15 centimeter by 15 by 15, or the cylinders, maybe a diameter of 10 centimeter by 30 centimeter, or diameter of 15 centimeter by 30 centimeters are casted. They are applied with the compressive load. Uniaxial compression is applied, and with the increase in compression, how much deformation has taken place in that concrete cube. Its change in length, change in width, change in depth, or change in volume, either for the cube or for the cylinder, is found out with the help of the dial gauges fixed between the certain length. And this dial gauge reading divided by the original length will give you the strain, and the ratio of the load applied divided by its area, that is the stress, will give you the stress. And we can find out the series of such readings, that is for the various loads, what is the strain. And from the series of the readings or the number of readings between the stress and strain, we can plot a graph or we can plot a stress-strain relationship. Okay. The modulus of elasticity found out in this way, just now I have explained, is from actual loading, is called as the static modulus of elasticity. Okay. So static modulus of elasticity of the concrete is defined as the modulus of elasticity, that is the ratio of the stress to strain, found out by application of the compressive load on the concrete cube of size 15 centimeter by 15 by 15 centimeter, or the concrete cylinder of 15 centimeters dia, 30 centimeters length, or 10 centimeters dia, 20 centimeters or 30 centimeters of the length. And the modulus of elasticity, that is the ratio of the stress to strain, is found out. And for the various loads, the stress to strain ratio is not constant, and you can find that the graph is a curved one. ऐसे कर्व ग्राफ आता है, ये बताता है कि ये स्ट्रेस टू स्ट्रेन इज नॉट कांस्टेंट, एंड आफ्टर रिमूवल ऑफ द लोड ये फिर से ओरिजिनल शेप में आता नहीं है. अगेन देयर इज ऑब्जर्वेशन ऑफ सर्टन strains on the concrete. So therefore, as there is no perfect relation or perfect ratio between stress to strain, there are various modulus of elasticities given for the concrete. I think you are trying to understand the things. As we don't have the exact ratio of the stress to strain, or we don't have a constant modulus of elasticity, that is the ratio of stress to strain, the modulus of elasticity of the concrete is given in 4 ways. The first is called as the initial tangent modulus. The second is called as the tangent modulus of elasticity. And third one is called as the secant modulus of elasticity. Initial tangent modulus, the tangent modulus, the secant modulus of elasticity, as well as as just now we have seen static modulus of elasticity. So the modulus of elasticity values of the concrete are given in 4 ways. The first is static modulus of elasticity. The second is initial tangent modulus. The third one is tangent modulus. And the last one is secant modulus. We have understood the meaning of the static modulus of elasticity. Now we will try to understand the initial tangent modulus, which is nothing but when the graph is plotted between stress and strain for the concrete, which is a curved graph, this dark graph, and if the tangent is drawn at the origin of the graph, if this tangent line is drawn at the origin of the graph, then slope of this tangent line, then the slope of this tangent line is called as the initial tangent modulus. ओके, यानी ये जो लाइन है, ये लाइन के करस्पॉन्डिंग यदि हमने स्ट्रेस और स्ट्रेन का रेशियो लिया, वो ये लाइन का स्ट्रोप रहेगा कहीं भी हर पॉइंट के ऊपर में. तो वो जो रेशियो है वो रेशियो कांस्टेंट ही रहेगा क्योंकि ये स्ट्रेट लाइन है. तो इसलिए उसको वो रेशियो को बोलते हैं इनिशियल टेंजेंट मॉड्यूलस. सो व्हाट इज इनिशियल टेंजेंट मॉड्यूलस ऑफ इलास्टिसिटी ऑफ कंक्रीट? इट इज द स्लोप ऑफ द line which is drawn through the origin of this stress to strain curve of the concrete. ठीक है, initial tangent modulus. For higher stress value, it may not give this initial tangent, does not give a correct result, पर it is very good for the low stress value. कम यदि stress value है तो उसके लिए ये यूज किया जाता है. हाइयर है तो क्या करते हैं, तो उसके लिए ये टेंजेंट मॉड्यूलस ऑफ इलास्टिसिटी है. ये क्या है? द टेंजेंट मॉड्यूलस ऑफ इलास्टिसिटी इज कैलकुलेटेड विथ रेफरेंस टू द टेंजेंट ड्रॉन एट एनी अदर पॉइंट ऑन द स्ट्रेस स्ट्रेन कर्व. यानी ये जो स्ट्रेस स्ट्रेन कर्व है इसके ऊपर में कोई भी पॉइंट के ऊपर में अदर देन द ओरिजिन पॉइंट, इफ वी ड्रॉ ए टेंजेंट लाइन, और ये टेंजेंट लाइन का यदि हम स्लोप निकालते हैं या रेशियो ऑफ द स्ट्रेस टू स्ट्रेन निकालते हैं, तो उसका जो रेशियो है या स्लोप ऑफ दिस टेंजेंट लाइन इज कॉल्ड एज द टेंजेंट मॉड्यूलस ऑफ इलास्टिसिटी. एंड इट इज almost uniform till this value or the maximum value. Beyond this value, this tangent modulus of elasticity, or for the higher values of the stresses, this also up to certain values, this gives satisfactory result, satisfactory ratios. After that maximum values, the next modulus of elasticity, that is the secant modulus of elasticity, is used. It is nothing but the slope of the line joining the origin and the this maximum stress value on this curve. It is a line drawn connecting a specified point on the stress strength curve to the original curve. If the modulus of elasticity is calculated with reference to slope of this line, the modulus of elasticity is called as secant modulus of elasticity. Okay, so slope of any line joining the point over the curve and the origin is called as the secant modulus of elasticity. Okay, and most commonly used modulus of elasticity is the secant modulus of elasticity. Again, I will repeat, the modulus of elasticity is found out with reference to this chord drawn between two specified points on the stress strain curve. Such value of modulus of elasticity is also called as the secant or the chord modulus of elasticity. And this is generally used. Now we are moving into the last part of this discussion, that is the relationship between modulus of elasticity and the strength, and we will see, if the time permits, the uh, the final part of this elasticity discussion. Now, is there any relation between strength and the modulus of elasticity? For at the same strength to strength ratio, means for the stress to strength ratio constant, stronger concrete or high strength concrete has higher strength. Okay, so therefore we can conclude from this, for higher the strength of the concrete, more will be the strength, though the ratio of the modulus of elasticity stress to strength ratio, though the ratio of the modulus of elasticity goes on increasing, but the stress to strength ratio will be constant. So as the strength increases, the modulus of elasticity on the increase also increases. But on the contrary, stronger the concrete, higher is the modulus of elasticity. And how the concrete will be stronger? The concrete can be stronger or has higher strength with all those parameters. That is the lower water cement ratio, well graded aggregate, proper curing, okay, all those proper mixing, vibrations, etc. So higher the strength, more is the modulus of elasticity. Stronger the concrete, stronger is the gel, that is cement and water gel. Hence, less is the strength for the given load. Therefore, more is the modulus of elasticity. Modulus of elasticity increases approximately with the square root of the strength, and as per Indian standard, IS 456 has given the relationship between the modulus of elasticity and the compressive strength. What is said by the Indian standard? Modulus of elasticity of the concrete increases approximately with the square root of the strength. That is, modulus of elasticity is equal to 5000 square root of the FCK, that is the compressive strength of the concrete. It is given in Newton per mm square. So E is the short term modulus of elasticity. Its units are also, modulus of elasticity का unit भी Newton per mm square है as the unit of the compressive strength. The factors affecting the modulus of elasticity are, first is the strength of the concrete. We have seen, stronger the concrete, higher is the modulus of elasticity. State of wetness of concrete. When the wet concrete means the concrete which is in the vicinity or in contact with water, जैसे the concrete of the dam, concrete of the water retaining structure, or concrete of the water tank, it has got, means wet concrete, जो concrete set होने के बाद गीला रहता है, hard होने के बाद गीला रहता है, उसकी modulus of elasticity ज्यादा है compared to the dry concrete. Then quality and quantity of aggregate also affects the modulus of elasticity. Strength of the aggregate may not have significant effect on strength of concrete. Aggregate का strength जो है वो कंक्रीट के स्ट्रेंथ के ऊपर उतना मायने नहीं रखता है, क्योंकि कंक्रीट का स्ट्रेंथ एग्रीगेट के स्ट्रेंथ के ऊपर से ज्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है सीमेंट और वाटर पेस्ट की स्ट्रेंथ और बाकी एग्रीगेट का ग्रेडेशन. लेकिन स्ट्रेंथ ऑफ द एग्रीगेट अफेक्ट्स द मॉड्यूलस ऑफ इलास्टिसिटी of the concrete. Okay, therefore, the strength of the aggregate as well as the modulus of elasticity of the aggregate influences the modulus of elasticity of concrete. More the modulus strength of the aggregate, more will be modulus of elasticity of the aggregate, more will be the modulus of elasticity of aggregate, more will be the modulus of elasticity of concrete. Modulus of elasticity of lightweight concrete is usually between 40 to 80% of modulus of elasticity of ordinary concrete of the same strength. ठीक है, यदि लाइट वेट एग्रीगेट हमने यूज किया तो उसमें हमें मॉड्यूलस ऑफ इलास्टिसिटी जो है वो कम मिलती है एज कंपेयर टू द नॉर्मल वेट एग्रीगेट और द हेवी वेट एग्रीगेट. नाउ वी विल मूव ऑन टू द नेक्स्ट पैरामीटर, that is the Poisson's ratio. Okay, Poisson's ratio, it is denoted by mu. It can be determined from the, this is the equation. Sometimes a short note is asked in your exam, that write the short note on modulus of elasticity of concrete. So you should be able to tell the elastic property of the concrete from that fourth graph, wherein the graph between stress and the strain, wherein you have seen the graph is not the straight line, it is a curved one, and there are two graphs when the concrete is loaded and the concrete is unloaded, and the concrete is neither the modulus of elasticity is neither linear and it is the curved one. ये आपको लिखना है. और ये Poisson's ratio पूछा, तो Poisson's ratio mu can be determined. अब concrete का Poisson's ratio कैसा निकालते हैं? It is determined with the help of the pulse ultrasonic testing machine. है ना, हम देश पढ़ेंगे बाद में. उसका Poisson's ratio निकालने के लिए ये फॉर्मूला है, which is equal to nu square upon twice nl, which is v square upon twice nl, which is equal to 1 minus mu upon 1 minus q mu 1 plus mu. ये फॉर्मूला है टू नो दी Poisson's ratio m निकालने के लिए with the help of the pulse ultrasonic testing machine. कंक्रीट स्पेसिमन जो है वो पल्स अल्ट्रासोनिक टेस्टिंग मशीन से टेस्ट किया जाता है. v is the pulse velocity, n is the resonant frequency of the longitudinal vibration. अभी आप सिर्फ ध्यान में रखिए ये फॉर्मूला. ये पल्स अल्ट्रासोनिक टेस्टिंग मशीन में जब आपको समझा दूंगा वो आपके सिलेबस में, तब ये बाकी सब पल्स वेलोसिटी, रेजोनेंट फ्रीक्वेंसी वगैरह सब समझ में आएगा. L is the distance between the transducers. इसमें जो L वैल्यू है, V is the pulse velocity, N is the resonant frequency, and mu is the Poisson's ratio. It is determined with the help of this formula, and the value of the mu by the dynamic testing is 0.2 to 0.25. ये Poisson's ratio है. It is the ratio between the lateral strain to longitudinal strain. Poisson's ratio की definition क्या है? It is a ratio between lateral strain to longitudinal strain. It is always denoted by mu. The value of the Poisson's ratio for the concrete lies between the 0.13 to 0.21 when actually determined from the strain measurements. ठीक है, Poisson's ratio क्या है? It is the ratio of the lateral strain to longitudinal strain. Its value is 0.13 to 0.21. Okay, and it is determined by the pulse ultrasonic testing machine. The formula for that is this given here. V is the pulse velocity, N is the resonant frequency, L is the length of the distance between the transducer or the length of that specimen. If it is found by this method, the values are 0.2 to 0.25, and if found by the strain measurement, the value of the Poisson's ratio is 0.13 to 0.21. So friends, here we will be taking the break. Okay, today we will stop here. I will bit again repeat the elastic properties of the concrete. We have seen the four categories earlier, that is the um, linear and the elastic material, non-linear and the elastic material, linear and non-elastic material, and non-linear and non-elastic material. The concrete comes into this fourth category, where the stress to strain graph is not straight, it is a curved one, as well as after removal of the load, this graph is after application of the load, and this returning graph is after removal of the load. These both graph don't match each other, means there is the observation of the strain in the concrete. So this is the graph of the concrete, the stress to strain ratio graph. This is the graph of the various ingredients of the concrete, that is cement, paste, aggregate, and actual concrete. The ratio of the stress to strain for the cement paste is almost straight line, for the aggregate straight line, but for the concrete it is a curved one. Then we have seen the three modulus of elasticity of the concrete. The, the first one is the static modulus of elasticity, that is found out by actually plotting a graph between the applied stress, applied load, and the strengths on a concrete cube and or the cylinder with the help of certain dial gauges. We can find the stresses by dividing the applied load by the area, and we can plot for the various loads, that is for the various stresses. We can find the stress, strain, and we can plot a graph, and we can find the ratio of the stress to strain, that is called as the modulus, static modulus of elasticity. But as this ratio is not constant, therefore we use for the concrete three types of the modulus of elasticities. That is initial tangent modulus, that is the tangent drawn at the origin of this graph, कर्व्ड ग्राफ बिटवीन स्ट्रेस टू स्ट्रेन. इसके ओरिजिन में टेंजेंट निकालने के बाद में ये टेंजेंट का जो स्लोप है, that is ratio of the stress to strain on this tangent line, that is called as the slope. This gives the initial tangent modulus of elasticity. For the higher stress value it is not used, for the lower stress value it gives the satisfactory results. For the higher stress values up to certain limit, the second modulus, that is the tangent modulus of elasticity, is being used. It is nothing but the slope of any tangent drawn on this curve of the stress to strain of the concrete other than the origin, and the maximum load point from this is called as the slope of this tangent line is called as tangent modulus of elasticity. And the third one, that is the secant modulus of elasticity, is nothing but the slope of the line from the origin to the point of maximum load or any point on this curve. The slope of this line is called as the secant modulus of elasticity, or it is also called as chord modulus of elasticity. And generally this modulus of elasticity is being used for the concrete. Then we have seen the relationship between modulus of elasticity and strength, wherein we have concluded 2 points, that is, as the strength increases the modulus of elasticity increases, as well as it is also dependent on the wetness of the concrete. If the concrete is wet, modulus of elasticity is more. If the concrete is dry, the modulus of elasticity is dry for the same strength concrete. Okay, also there is a relationship between the strength and the modulus of elasticity, and we have found it is given by the Indian standard 456. Modulus of elasticity of concrete is equal to 5000 square root FCK. FCK is the compressive strength or characteristic compressive strength. Various factors affecting modulus of elasticity: strength, wetness, as well as the aggregate, lightweight aggregate and the heavyweight aggregate. Heavyweight aggregate, more strength; more modulus of elasticity. Then we have seen the details of the Poisson's ratio, which is the ratio of the lateral strain to longitudinal strain. It is the lateral strain to longitudinal strain. This ratio is called as the Poisson's ratio, denoted by mu. Its value is between 0.13 to 0.21 for the concrete. And then we have seen how it is found out by using the pulse ultrasonic testing machine. This is the formula. These are the various meanings. V is the pulse velocity, resonant frequency, L is the length between the transducers. This value is 0.2 to 0.25. So here we are ending our lecture today. Please don't leave the class.